A blind. So, báwo la ṣe máa wá líǹkì báwo la ṣe máa líǹkì ó wà nísàlẹ̀ ní ká má gbọ́.
Let me see.
wọn láti ṣe pọ̀ fún àgbà kan sún síwájú. Lọ́ba ní fẹ́ẹ́ pẹ̀lú sí fún. Yeah, I think it's okay. It's it's close and already in scene too. Yeah. So what? Yeah. No, is it the right? Yeah. Session to me go nìyẹn ó rí máa. The I know you have idea. Okay.
I can hear you. Quickly, I'm joining now. I want to join too. Let me join too. Let me join. We'll talk about this later. Okay.
Oh, no, I need it. I need a link. Okay. Yes, we can hear you. I'm already. I think we are getting back.
Síkírù, kámẹ́rà kébù ńkọ́? Yes. Yeah, they can hear you. Even if they are speaking like that. They can hear you. See. No. Professor Walibu. Ndubuisi. The author. Policy. Finally. Can you just give a thumb up if you hear me? Yes, sir.
Hello, I can hear you.
Okay.
Good morning. I can hear you, and I can see a screen.
The other. Okay. Thank you.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Please, can anyone test the audio and be sure we can hear you?
It's so hard to hear you. I hear half and then it drifts off or it fades down. So it's quite difficult to hear. Mm.
Hello, is it better?
Yes, it's better now.
Hello, is it better?
It still keeps feeling up and down though, but I can hear you better now.
Can you hear us?
It's a struggle to hear. It's a struggle to hear. I can try, but chances are that I might miss some words. But we could continue. The sound, unfortunately, the sound is quite bad. But I don't know if it's peculiar to me, though. Possibly it might be peculiar to me. Possibly other people online might hear better than I do. So you may want to also cross-check with them. It might be an isolated thing.
Panelists.
Hello? Is it better now? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, it's better now.
Ah, okay. So I'm speaking to you my phone.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it is hand up.
No.
Okay. Well, we've lost time, so I will just I'll skip my own intro and then just go straight. But good morning, everyone. So, basically, I'd like to welcome those who are here and then those who are online. Thank you for joining up. We've lost some time, but we'll just proceed and then we'll see how it goes. Let me especially welcome Professor Duro Oni, the former Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. You only got notification this morning and is there, and everybody is there, and you came from Ibadan, and you are here. Thank you very much. And everyone who is there, you see how it goes. Other people are joining us online. Thank you, everyone. So let me just say that I think the reason I'm here is because I've known Nduka Otiono all my life. I mean, we've been soldiers at the same war front for so many years, starting from Ibadan, the Poetry Club, and then to Lagos in the newsroom of The Guardian, and then on the streets of Lagos, also on the street of Udine in Italy, on the street of Ghana. I don't want to tell them the story of Alomo that night that we almost got lost. But thank you. Some of the things that have been said in the book, because we have eminent panelists who will be talking about, they don't have a specific topic, but they know the book. They've read the book, so they are going to be speaking to the book. But one aspect that I think has not really been highlighted in all the contribution, even in the introduction, apart from Professor Olobafemi, is Otiono also as an administrator, as an art manager. Because it was through him in his service during the Association of Nigerian Authors and other such body pen and the rest of them, that have been able to nurture a lot of talent, a lot of young people who came into our fold simply because there was a mentor somewhere, which says a lot about the role of a mentor, because his own trajectory is different. He's a creative writer, then a journalist, then an academic, and also an administrator. And I hope we'll be able to get into that. So not to waste more time, because we have just 1 hour, 30 minutes, and we don't want to go. I have a longer note, but I'll get to that. I have some questions that I've asked at the end, which we can get to. So let's just start. Professor Samantha Iroro, you can unmute. Okay. Give me the book. The book. Are you ready? Okay. For Professor Samantha Iroro, this is the book we're discussing, Critical Perspectives on Nduka Otiono. Just been released, in the bookshelf here yet, but it's already on now, so you can actually get it on Amazon. So the speakers will be talking to this through this book.
Yep. It's muted now. It's muted now. It's muted. I can't hear. Yeah. Now we can. Yeah, now we can hear. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, now we can. Now I can hear. Now I can hear. Maybe it's peculiar to me. Possibly others might be hearing better than I am.
I don't think it's peculiar to you, Prof.
Hello? Hello? Oh, you can hear me now. Oh, you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now. But I don't know if others can, though.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if...
Anyway,
Yeah,
so Samantha, you can just start, and then we take it from there. What we have planned is that every speaker will have 10 minutes for the first presentation. Then we take questions from here or from online, and then we come back to you for another 5 minutes. I hope that is okay.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. So you can start, Samantha. Then we go to Professor Wariboko, later Ndubuisi, and then we proceed like that.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity to speak at this prestigious event. I also thank my fellow panelists. Please, is it possible you could make it shareable so I could share my slides? It's not a lot, but it just gives me gives the listeners an indication of where I'm reading from.
You can share.
Thank you. Okay, I prepared a little paper for this, yeah, and so I'll be reading it. Thanks very much again. So I have had a chance to bring into conversation 3 out of the really deeply stirring papers that have been chapters that have been presented in this book. Specifically chapter 3 of Media and Literary Ethos, Satirical Undercurrents and Postcolonial Subjectivities in Nduka Otiono's The Night Hides with a Knife by Gabriel Kosiso Okonkwo. Chapter 4, Reimagining Narrative Syncretism in Nduka Otiono's The Night Hides with a Knife by Onyinyechi Ayalenkeya. Apologies if I don't pronounce the names properly. And thirdly, chapter 11, Writing Black, Mapping Margins and the Nationalistic Voice in Nduka Otiono's Poetry by Dominic James Aboy. I will be speaking from, I'll be making my interventions from my interest locations of postcolonialism, critical race theory, critical media studies, and indigenous knowledge systems. Because as I read these 3 chapters, they tended to speak from these interesting locations as well, and also to me to think two other equally important theories that I like to bring in as I make my interventions on these readings. So here I go. I believe that they are well-considered critical reforms evoking resonances with some post-colonial registers, which I just spoke about, which deeply resonate deeply. Thus, in my reflections, I draw on Humibaba's City, Bell's margin as a site of resistance, in addition to Nduka Otiono's street stories theory. I also, in the course of this discussion, invoke Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. I echo what Aboy talks about in terms of Ngugi wa Thiong'o's work on language and decolonization. I bring in Ama Ata Aido's accessible storytelling very briefly, as well as Akachi Ezigbo's snail sense feminism, also in my conclusion quite briefly. Nduka Otiono's writing, which spans sharp-edged stories, short stories, incantatory poetry, and incisive journalistic essays, to mention but a few, invites a wealth of critical approaches. And in this work, these three authors have done that quite excellently. I start with upon reflecting on their work, I then go on to propose some strategies, some things I think are strategies in ways that we could push the boundaries of the audiences of this book beyond the academia. So I'm thinking, might we be able to engage the everyday Nigerian in ways that deeply resonate with them? So beyond us speaking to one another within academic and elitist conversation spaces. So here I go. Gabriel Okonkwo approaches Otiono's short stories with a dual lens: Marxist criticism, Achille Mbebe's necropolitics. By foregrounding class struggles and the politics of life and death, he presents Otiono as both artist and witness. Okonkwo first situates The Night Hides with a Knife in the material realities of real
Hello? Hello?
Sure. Can you
Yes.
hear me, sir?
Yeah,
Okay.
you are back. We can hear you now. Go ahead.
For Eagleton, ideology shapes human consciousness, legitimizing the ruling class worldview. Otiono's stories bring this dynamic to light by portraying characters whose hopes and vanities reflect their social positions. This is how Okonkwo articulates this. Into this Marxist frame, the author Okonkwo inserts Mark Nowak's concepts of imaginative militancy, that idea that the oppressed develop the creative sub-regimes of resistance under authoritarian conditions. And he goes to Crossfire, one of the works of Otiono, for example, where detainees exchange darkly comical accounts of prison food, joking that rebellion might taste better than the guards' beans. Thus, he sustaining solidarity and undermining fear without open revolt. Okonkwo also layers in Mbembe's necropolitics by conceptualizing sovereignty as the power to decide who may live and who must die. He argues that Otiono's portrayal of military dictatorships, arbitrary arrests, extrajudicial killings, and the ubiquitous set of violence captures that Nigerian necropolitical reality. Yet, even as Otiono depicts this grim world as Okonkwo presents, it shows how the oppressed of society battle the political class through small scale tactics, from bribe disguise, flattery to gossip that exposes corruption. So by merging Marxist and necro-political critique, I see how Okonkwo honors Otiono's dual role as artist and agent of social memory. Otiono's fiction does more than illustrate theory, I think, and I think that Okonkwo articulates this much. I see from Okonkwo's work how he honors that Otiono enacts the lived contradictions of post-colonial Nigeria, where survival, speech, and solidarity become instruments of resistance. I move now to Ayalenkeya's narrative syncretism and consciousness in chapter 4. Ayalenkeya shifts attention from content to form and consciousness. In her chapter, she argues that she submits that Otiono's fictions innovates by blending oral and written modes, creating a hybrid narrative that mirrors post-colonial complexity. So she talks about narrative syncretism as his signature. She cites commentators praising the collection for its success, and this is evident in some of the work she cites, like Wing of Rebellion, which unfolds a multi-layered anecdote told at a bar. Against the foregoing background, then, the chapter seeks to unravel how the interplay of dreams, imaginations, and actual occurrences influence complex consciousness through focalizing in some of the stories in The Night Hides with the Book. She tends to include in her interest in Otiono's narrative she tends to include in her reflection on Otiono his approach to narrative reflexivity, how he situates Nigeria's post-colonial realities in the parallel space of what is, or what may possibly be, and how all of these color his stories. I move very quickly also because I'm cognizant of time. I'm trying to rush through. Aboy's chapter 11, Mapping Margins in Poetry. I appreciate how Aboy takes us into some poetic realms of Otiono, including the COVID era collection displays. In writing Black Writing Back, he explores how Otiono's verse charts Black diasporic marginality, environmental justice, and hope. I like particularly how he opens by situating the poet's work within postcolonial geography and eco-criticism, underscoring amongst others how images of the Niger Delta's ecological devastation stands for neo-colonial exploitation. He goes on to analyze the paradox of migration, marked by both yearning and critique of the adventure of the necessary move, noting how the poet's use of Igbo, Pidgin English, and English rhythms enacts the colonial poetics. I like very much that Aboy also develops his concept, or advances his concept of mapping margins. In summary, one can say he submits that Otiono stages each poem as a cartography of dislocation, juxtaposing street vendor cries with folkloric proverbs to suggest that the margin itself is a site of creative resistance. I'll come to that in a little as I bring in bell hooks. He also brings in Strathol's advancing of the theory of hybridity in ways that identify that identities are beyond fixed. They shape over course of time, and relativities over the short course of time. So upon reading these three chapters, I then attempt to bring them into intertextual dialogue because I notice indeed that they speak to one another. It does not mean that other works do not speak to one another, but I for time I will focus on these three. So when I place Okonkwo, Ayalenke, and Aboy in conversation, I find that I find three common threads and three common threads really. First, I observe that all three identify the work of Otiono as an arena of subversion, class militancy, political criticism, Okonkwo, narrative resistance to syncretism, Ayalenke, and historic prophetic hope, amongst several other things by Aboy. Secondly, I notice that each scholar centers marginalized voices, specifically urban poor, oral narratives, displaced poets. All these, by the way, affirm the reimage of bell hooks, of the margin as a site of radical possibility of power. In other words, rather than a place of victimhood. I think she says this in the book, in the work Yearning. Thirdly, all three show how Otiono democratizes postcolonial critique through form and language. Okonkwo notes Otiono's journalistic directness, Ayalenke's oral inspiratives, and Aboy, his vernacular-infused poetry. There is also something to be said about how they speak from diverse locations, yeah? So the conversation among the three can also be drawn from the thematic of structure versus form. Aboy emphasizes economic structures and state violence. Ayalenke emphasizes narrative and critique. I also see how a causal link around local versus global goes on there. Ayalenke and Okonkwo focus on Nigeria's immediate social milieu. Aboy expands to the global Black diaspora. These various definitions highlight Otiono's dual role as national witness and world-class poet. So I move on how many more minutes have I got, please? How am I doing with time, please?
Okay.
Chair.
3 more minutes, actually.
All right. Could I ask for 2 more by any chance? Can I ask for 5 in total by any chance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So here I go. So all of these readings continue to remind me of Homi Bhabha's sly civility and bell hooks' marginality, even as it echoes, of course, street stories, one of the theories of Otiono, which I find particularly useful in studying our status as Nigerians, particularly in diaspora. So stories, the dialogue amongst these 3 chapters remind me of sly civility and Bhabha, as I said. So just in summary, sly civility, Bhabha's notion, is defined as a stance of colonial resistance. It's not a refusal of authority, but it's a refusal in the outward form of compliance. So it's not outright, it disrupts, in subtle forms, which cannot be easily detected by the colonizing agent, but which is quite powerful. Otiono's characters, I find, from what I read, in addition, also from these interventions by these 3 authors, Otiono's characters often embed critique within polite language or humor. Mimicry that unsettles power. For instance, Okonkwo's imprisoned journalist. Ayalenke's dreamlike narrators, Aboy's implicit nuance of Otiono's writing as poetic prophecies. All of these, I think, enact sly civility. They speak to authority on its own terms, same time undermining it through multi-dimensions of irony and narrative twists. Bell Hooks argues that marginality, more than a site of deprivation, offers us opportunities to resist and resist firmly. So it takes away it takes away the state of seeing the marginalized location as a place of victimhood, as I said earlier, to one where we could what Spivak calls strategic essentialism. We could collectively recognizing ourselves, the common thread, regardless of our intersectional differences, focus on the intersecting thread of being marginalized to speak back to power in deeply meaningful ways. So by centering those at the periphery, whether the urban underclass, as Okonkwo notes, or oral storytellers, as Aniemeka unpacks, or diasporic wanderers, as Aboy does articulate, Otiono and his critiques enact what emancipatory discourses unlimited to postcolonialism, the centering critical race theory, called talking back to the center. And indeed, Aboy, it takes time to really underscore this point. These three.
I'll just give you grace of 1 minute because of the technical issue to wrap up this. You are coming back after this first round, so just wrap up.
Okay. So in closing, I'll just quickly speak to this. Okay, so one of the questions, or some of the questions it evokes in me as well, are questions of the choices, some of the choices that these works present to us. One of the substantial, sorry, one moment. I believe we face a choice in how we journey with these works. Yeah. We could go on speaking, keeping the conversation within elitist academic sites, elitist conversation sites, or we could decide on impact beyond elitist recognition, beyond academic spaces, and artistic spaces, by extending their reach into the increasingly diverse and innovative dissemination, by increasing their reach with the increasingly diverse and innovative dissemination resources at our disposal, as human and machine, digital humanities. I think that with the last section,
Okay.
Echo in deeply meaningful ways the channels, newsrooms, and streets, and such a powerful triangulation that is. Thanks very much for the time.
Okay. Yeah, you're out of time actually, and the network is a bit wonky. Hello. Hello, Samantha. Hello, Samantha. Okay. Professor Dunton, can you hear us, please? I've been sending you message. Also, Professor Wariboko, I've sent you messages to confirm if you can hear us or not.